Hello everyone, this is my reaction to yesterday's Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.3 patch report.
Now up until this point, freight elevators were mostly used in single-player short-term environments like personal hangars. There would usually only be one user, and on the back end it would be stowed when you left and a fresh new freight elevator presented every single time you went back in. Now while certainly not perfect, these tended to operate better than the ones out in the wilderness at, say, outposts.
Okay, good start, Jared. Why are you lying to us? Freight elevators are bugged since introduction. No matter if it's a freight elevator in your personal hangar, if it's a freight elevator at an outpost. And now you're making it look like, yeah, freight elevators in your personal hangars worked very well. It was only the outpost that had this problem. No. Freight elevators are bugged since forever. Benoit said freight elevators, metros and ATC is old code. This code is not compatible with server meshing, so you have to rewrite the code. But now you make it look like, yeah, it was just a problem with those freight elevators at an outpost and because we had this event. No, please, don't lie to us. Also, Benoit's statement, freight elevators are old code, not compatible with server meshing, doesn't make sense because even before server meshing, freight elevators didn't exactly work well.
Elevators and trams. Yep. Broken or missing elevators in various locations, preventing access to hangars and other areas, or simply trapping players inside. Trams that either let you fall through the floor or yeet you into lower orbit. My question to you?
What the fuck? That's 6. So, brief history, right, of transit. This is a very old system that's been in the game for a long time. And transit in the context of streaming is already a non-trivial problem to solve because and I need to dive into the why, so to explain a bit, the complexities behind it. So the transit system is composed of multiple components, right? You've got peripherals, so that's, for example, the button you press to call an elevator or a tram. It's the indicators that say, hey, the tram's coming in, this amount of time. Those are peripherals. You have gateways, which are locations where a carriage can stop at. So, for example, if you're in Lowerville, and you go to the train, where the train stops, it's like a station. That's called a gateway. You have carriages, which are either elevators, trains, trams, all these things that move along a path. And then they go from gateway to gateway. And they respond to orders that are submitted from peripherals. All sounds nice and dandy. What's the problem, right? So in any game, any other game that doesn't have full-on level streaming, all of these things are always loaded. So the manager, the piece of code that actually is managing the fulfilling the orders and moving the carriages in general, or has the logic of the carriages, is always, all this network is streamed in. It's all loaded, so it's always available. It knows where the carriages are, it knows what's happening, everything is there. In our environment, because of our SOCS technology, that allows us to have more performance on the servers because we unload the rest of the zone. That means we unload those carriages. So think about your Lowerville train that you see stop at you and then leave. On the server, if nobody's on the track, it doesn't have a carriage there. It's unloaded, right? And so the current iteration of the system actually destroys that carriage and will recreate carriages when it needs it, right? And there's been a ton of issues with this. So that's the first part, right, is the streaming part. That makes it a bit more complicated. The second part is that the way the system was built initially, it would fulfill these orders to those, send orders basically. You call the elevator from your hangar, I need to send a lift there. So the system is gonna tell the lift to move. The lift moves on its own, right? So you will jump and then do the actual path. We want those to be physicalized, so they're actually following certain paths. Now, the issue is that combined streaming with these orders and state is lost in certain conditions. And so the system just needs a whole lot of changes on its communication layer to be reliable, and it needs a fundamental change in how it fulfills these orders. Instead of just sending a message to a carriage and hoping for the best, the transit manager needs to be actually always tending towards the state that it should be in, so that it can self-heal for any kind of issues, right? Whether creating the carriage failed or streaming out and losing a piece of it, the system needs to change to be able to properly do that. So that's what the new system that we're writing is going to do. It's going to solve these communication issues with streaming, and it will make the system self-heal. But we also need to do fixes to the current system immediately, right, to get that working. So now we do have a crack team on this right now, where we've significantly increased the size of the group that is looking at the current elevators issues, which we have absolutely regressed on. And they're looking at adding the self-healing component I just talked about directly in the system. So I was happy to hear that we have now proper reproductions for at least a couple of cases where the gateways are basically becoming defunct. And so you call the elevator and it never shows up, right? That's the number one case that we see at the moment. Or the other one is a lift shows up, you press a button and it doesn't move, right? So that's when the transit manager's lost this carriage, or the gateway is no longer usable. And so now we have those reproductions, and they're not just happening at to players. Now we have an actual case where we're able to actually go down and we've seen what actually is going on. So we can put the self-healing things I just talked about to fix it.
So in the past, when we've talked about some of these issues and why they haven't been fixed or whatever, it's because we've had this aversion to doing double work.
Yeah.
We don't want to work on a Band-Aid when we know the long-term solution is ripping the whole damn thing out and replacing it with something else.
Try to do minimal change on the existing and say.
What you just described, though, is doing both. Though. So at present, I just want to confirm this here. Yeah. At present, some amount of persons are working on writing a brand new transit system built for the server meshing reality.
Correct.
And all this stuff.
Yes.
But at the same, that's going to take X number of months to do. Not wanting to wait for that because
we need to fix.
You need to fix now.
Right.
There's also another group of people focused on a short-term self-healing fix to the current system.
Yes.
That may not fix everything, but will dramatically improve it, is our hope.
Yes. Well, we want it to function the way it should function, which is all the time, like reliable, right? Now, it might mean, because we are still going to have the issue of the streaming out and some error handling, that it might take longer for a lift to arrive in certain cases, but it will arrive. And it will
because it'll have that error checking, it'll have that self-healing.
Correct.
So the idea is that it won't just not show up.
Right.
You won't just fall through it. You may wait twice as much as you were used to
in those cases.
But then it will show up.
Correct.
Well, that would be something. At least for the short term.
Yes.
That would be something.
Yeah.
Okay. And that helps me explain why we're doing both.
Right. No, because we need to
why we're
fix
doing
it
short-term
right now.
fixes and
Exactly.
long-term. Okay, that makes more sense to me.
Now, of all the known issues with all the freight elevators in the game, most tend to revolve around simple things like it just doesn't work, and bigger problems like all my items have vanished and they're now lost forever, which itself can often tie into other issues with things like long-term persistence, which we're gonna have an SCL on with Benoit soon to discuss some new developments there. So if it's okay with you, we're gonna stick to freight elevators for the time being.
I am looking very forward to another Star Citizen Live with Benoit. I wonder what excuses he will bring up this time, and of course, our physics are great.
Not because our physics code is terrible, in fact, it's great.
But it's important to note that these issues have been egregious enough that we'd already started a directed repair initiative months ago. It's just not completed yet. Obviously.
Obviously, but you still went through with a source drive. Either your guys who are making the missions don't know or don't care.
I don't know which is worse.
With a higher concurrency in daily active users than any patch this year, large numbers of players were driven from their private freight elevators and their personal hangars to the more troublesome ones out in the PU.
Again, Jared, please don't lie to us. Freight elevators are bugged since introduction, no matter if it's a freight elevator at Outpost or in our personal hangar. And who wrote this excuse? This almost sounds like ChatGPT wrote it.
With causes only revealed by running thousands of people into them over and over and over again throughout this event.
I'm getting really tired of this reaction. Again, Jared, stop gaslighting us. Now you are painting it, yeah, we had this event and now we found the errors. Freight elevators are bugged since introduction. You know this, Benoit knows this. Benoit said in February they have to totally rewrite freight elevator, metro and ATC code. But now you are painting it like, yeah, we had to run this event to find the issues. Stop lying to us, please.
As we work to fix each issue we encountered, the resolution would often reveal another lying in wait underneath.
Yes, this happens if a game studio does not maintain their code, if a game studio has no documentation, and if a game studio has lots of quick and dirty fixes, several layers on top of each other.
And in August, you'll find the new Specialist Light Stealth Armor.
Yeah, stealth armor with lights on it, lights we cannot even turn off, lights that make you a very nice target in dark areas and at night. The first rule of combat is you want to be seen.
Also, hangar respawning returns. Now it's a small thing, but the ability to spawn directly into your personal hangar and get back into the fray should be a welcome one for anyone that's played the game for a while. Personal hangars are slowly becoming our first true homes in the verse, and this is yet another step in the right direction.
We had spawning in our hangars and it was removed, now it's back, I guess it will get removed again. I like it very much to spawn in my hangar, but I would like to have options like, do you want to spawn in your hangar or do you want to spawn in your hab? Because sometimes I need to buy something like ammunition before I want to go into my hangar. And why can't we select a space station as our first spawn location? And about hangars becoming our home, you're again not telling the truth, Jared. You know perfectly well that CRG's item interaction system and CRG's physics are so terrible, if you put things into your hangar, they are moving around, they don't stay where you put them. In addition, I don't want to have a hangar as my home, I want to have a base, an apartment, whatever, but not a hangar.
And while we're talking about light fighters, what would a patch in 2025 be without brand new vehicles?
Buy the Kruger Wolf, we need money, and if enough people buy the Kruger Wolf, we might even remove the fin at the bottom. Yeah! Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye! Auf Wiedersehen! I want to show you the Valaka tank. It's actually quite huge, but of course it has no use at all. It's just hangar decoration fluff. You can do nothing with it. You cannot even shoot at it. Oh, you can. I mean, you cannot destroy it, but you can move it with bullets, okay? Nothing in this game has mass. Everything has a mass of an empty paper bag. Okay, I didn't expect this.
Not because our physics code is terrible, in fact, it's great.
Okay, now we have a secondary explosion and now everything is destroyed. But Flicker is fine. Flicker is moving around. Flicker didn't take any damage. Okay. Why? Flicker was standing in the middle and didn't take any damage.
Not because our physics code is terrible, in fact, it's great.
Hey, you're still here. You might want to join me on Twitter or on Blue Sky.